a quick disclaimer before today's episode. We had some slight audio issues about microphones picking up the sounds from the speakers, but editing caught like 99% of that, so you should be fine. Just ignore it. You'll get used to it. Don't worry about it. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Nick. Are you well?
Yes, I'm well. Well for the third time or sixth.
Well, you've lost me. That's good. That's a good amount of well.
Thank you. I'm trying to count the amount of guest episodes we've had.
Oh yeah. Well,
You've had. Okay. I probably shouldn't have jumped in there, but I think it's been two others because it's that freaking geek and Canton Parker.
I know. No, I know. I was trying to make a bit because we've had our wives on here, and I've had my brother-in-law on here as well.
Fantastic. Okay, let me retract that. We can gladly start again if you'd like.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of everyone's favorite podcast, the Critical Arcade Podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick.
And I'm Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Hi, Nick. Are you well?
Yes, because I can count now. I know we have had 3 guests on this show from this day onwards.
That's right, and it's only getting better, I'm sure.
It's only getting better. This is only going to make sense if you've listened to this episode's cold open.
That's very true.
Oh, yeah, the power of editing.
Okay, who's our guest today, Nick?
Today's guest, we've got none other than Caleb Janssens. Oh yeah, Instagram YouTuber extraordinaire, watching every single movie in existence. Please, Caleb, introduce yourself.
I wouldn't say extraordinaire, but I really do appreciate the kind words.
Oh come on! I've been watching your videos and stuff. You're doing pretty well. Like I said, it's in a space that's quite saturated with people. I think your stuff's pretty unique and a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, I'd say you're knocking it out of the park, as we'd say. You know, like I say, you're very humble, I'd say.
Well, thanks, guys. I really do appreciate it. And yes, for those of you that are curious, it definitely did start off with movie only, but I'm definitely moving more into just I would say geek culture space, and that'd be from movies to video games, comic books, just anything geek related. I'm kind of like dipping my toes into at the moment, because as much as I love movies, you can only talk about a movie so many times before you feel like the content you're creating is getting a little bit stale. So I've been trying to almost reinvent myself so that there is new content coming out that people can watch, listen to, and enjoy.
Yeah, making that variety, a jack of all trades, right? Get in there amongst everything. No, that's very cool.
Well, I'm glad you're transitioning into geek culture. We're definitely in the right company.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Then. So you're doing more video games, you say?
Yes. So at the moment, busy working on Mortal Kombat 1, which I know Canton and Alec are also both busy working on. So shout out to them, because the content they've created for Mortal Kombat has been amazing. Something that actually I'm not allowed to say at the moment is I'm actually even busy working on a video game myself. So me and my friends are busy making our own video game that we want to release to the public next year. So that is also very, very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
that is very, very cool.
You're one of these people that makes it makes like 48 hours out of 24 hours, right? You always seem to be doing something there. Something
it does
here,
seem like
something
it.
Like, do you sleep? like I said, I'm always how do you? Like I said, the idea that you get all these things done, it's very impressive. It's it's somewhat intimidating, but like I say, you review Netflix, you review games, you're making a computer game, you do voiceover work. Damn, you make me tired.
That's
just
a lot.
Guys, I won't lie, I am tired. I have to take my shoes and socks off if I want to count the number of mental breakdowns I've been having recently in regards to burnout.
Yeah,
oh no!
At least you're still young for now. That's what the youth's all about, fundamentally. Yeah.
And I'm glad you're still standing to join us for an episode on this podcast.
Exactly.
Because this week we had a very special game, a game close to a lot of people's hearts. Dave, how about you enlighten us? What did we play this week?
Well, this week, as you said, it's a classic, definitely for my era of gamers, because I think I was still in my 20s when this came out, so quite old. This is Mass Effect, the very first one, to kickstart the whole space opera extravaganza that's now happened with Starfield and everything else that's coming out now. This is the pinnacle, in my opinion. You can imagine that I'm praising this game quite a lot because I love it. This is the pinnacle of the genre, the sci-fi adventure storytelling genre.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited. This is the game we're doing because I love it.
This trilogy, right, would be the peak. Not just the first one. Definitely not the first one.
Yeah, this is where I already know there's going to be some contention because I love the first one. Now, granted, it's because there's memories and stuff in regards to my childhood or my young adolescence. But this is why it's going to be a good episode, because I understand, because both you and Caleb are of a younger generation, it kind of hits a lot of marks that games now do today, which is going to be a lot of fun. And I believe this was actually the game Caleb brought forward because it's one of his favorites, right, Caleb?
Right, yes.
Yes, that is 100% true. I will say this, though, and I'll get some hate because I know I brought up Mass Effect, but Mass Effect 2 is just the better game all round. Like, Mass Effect 2 is where it's
Even I'd say that. Yeah, I would say that. That one, strange for a sequel to do so much better than the first, but I'll agree that Mass Effect 2 definitely did a better job than the first one.
Well, this was around the time when sequels did better than the first games. I think Uncharted 2 did better than Uncharted 1. A lot of people would argue Dead Space 2 did better than Dead Space 1.
No, I was going to say, like, it also leans into the trend where the third game was just disappointing and left a lot of people wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very true, very true. So how about we dive into Mass Effect with our first segment, narrative, which a lot of people would argue is the most important segment for Mass Effect of all games, the narrative. I must admit, I've not completed Mass Effect. I think I might be the only one in this conversation who's not completed this game. Is that true?
It's a weird thing because it's almost a taboo now, isn't it? In gaming culture, there's certain games that one should always have played. Mass Effect, Halo, I guess Elder Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's very strange because lots of people, there's almost a taboo with certain games shouldn't play, and Mass Effect is one of them. If you say you've not played a Mass Effect game, people go, oh, what?
Whoa.
How are you
How dare you?
a gamer?
I'll say 100%. Like, Mass Effect, I think, is one of those trilogies, and I've been begging my wife to play it because I feel like it's one of those games that stays with you as well. It's not a game that you play, then you put it to bed, and then you're done with it. Like, I won't lie, I've played Mass Effect 2, just the second one, over 30 times. I've played, because that was the only game I had installed on my computer at one point. So it was play Mass Effect or don't play any game. Mass Effect 1, I think I've completed around 10 times. And then, but that's like just the game itself. That's not even counting full trilogy runs. So like, I've dedicated so many hours to this game. And I think Mass Effect is definitely a great place to start in regards to the trilogy.
Well, yes, because it's the first one.
I always love those little stories, like you say you played Mass Effect 2 so much because it was the only game installed. And I always find there's so many stories just like that because we've all had a childhood where, well, gaming's relatively expensive and there's one game that you played to death just because it was your favorite,
only one you had.
The only one you had, or your PC wasn't strong enough to play anything else. And I always love, I always feel like every nerd or gamer out there always has that one game that they've played to death because it was it and it's all you had. And I love the idea that that's Mass Effect 2. Not only is it a great game, and it's a great game to actually be the only game you had, but it will always stay with you being that game. I love those.
Out of interest, Dave, what was this game for you?
That was Streets of Rage 3. I know,
wow.
I'm going back now. Streets of Rage 3 for the Sega. It was the only one I had, and it was 2-player with my brother, and I played that loads. But yeah, the narrative of Mass Effect. Now, this was a big thing.
It definitely is. For 2007, a big space opera, a larger-than-life space opera narrative and story. A lot of people got invested in this, really, really invested, because the narrative is interesting and it's deep. It's a mile wide and a mile deep, and you don't get those. You hardly get them now, even. A story is either a mile wide, an inch deep, or it's one linear story and it just goes on forever. But Mass Effect was one of the outliers where it's broad and it's deep. right? You could read the what was it? The codex?
Yeah, that's right. The codex in game.
Yeah, you could read that codex for hours.
Well, that's what I wrote down as well myself in regards to narrative. That's the magic, in my opinion, of Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea that every character, every species, every sub-story, every little niche in the game has some lore to go with it. A war in regards to the races' dislike of one another, or the backstories of each race being complicated and stuff. That's what, for me, makes it so big in the space, the gaming space. It had so much there that narratively it was, like you said, it was complex. It was like reading a book that you played. I know it's a cliche now with video games. They all fit the books you can play. But I remember when I was a young lad, that's what blew me away about this game. It was the first time it was a huge story in a huge world that grabbed me. I'm guessing it was the same for Caleb with Mass Effect 2, and then I heard you went back to Mass Effect 1 just so you could find the origin, right?
So what I actually did was I played Mass Effect 2, and then I had the opportunity of getting Mass Effect 1 and 3 at the exact same time. But I'd played Mass Effect 2 so many times, like, you know, when you played a later game, you can kind of piece together what happened before. So I actually went Mass Effect 2, then I wanted to, because I'd played so many times, like, well, I've got to make sure that I can conclude the story with my character. So I ended up going from number 2 to number 3, and then all the way back to number 1.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a learning curve, having to like go flip. That is a lot of years in between these games.
Yeah, it's true, because you had Mass Effect 2 as the collector straight away. Oh no, Cerberus, right? Sorry. And then you had to go back to Mass Effect 1 to learn about Saren and his adventures and stuff. Yeah, that's quite a big gap fundamentally in the story. But I get it. I'd have done the same thing. Sorry,
but that must have been, you said it was a learning curve, but that must have been just almost uncomfortable to a degree, right? Because all the quality of life improvements they've added, not only Mass Effect 2, but Mass Effect 3 is missing for Mass Effect 1. How on earth?
That's 100% true. And also, like, I feel like I got to experience something that made a lot of people upset, because I remember going onto Facebook and stuff like that, and I had very limited internet access, but like I was always doing research on Mass Effects. And one thing I noticed was everyone was always talking about, why did they take out the overheating mechanic? The guns feel stupid now. They feel weak. Like, I preferred how the guns worked in Mass Effect 1. And I was always like, I have no idea what these guys are talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly.
Playing Mass Effect 3, then going back to the first one, I feel like I got retroactively angry, because I'm like, well, now I understand why everyone was so angry like 10 years ago.
Okay.
Well, that's quite a cool. That's quite a cool little journey just for yourself, anyway. Because, like you said, I for one didn't like that overheating mechanic of the game. I loved the ammo mechanic in Mass Effect 2 over the overheating one, because it just felt more realistic for me. The combat in Mass Effect 2 is a lot better than Mass Effect 1, in my opinion. But
it does make sense. All these things are, I mean, subjective. Your feelings towards them.
But remember that Mass Effect 1 was originally an Xbox 360 exclusive when it first came out. You know, it only later got moved over to the PC. So it was coming on the back end of Gears of War, I believe, and Halo. Mm-hmm. So that's what I loved about it. Gears of War started off this thing where you did you had a great story, you had big muscled guys, you know, taking on the locusts and stuff. But then Mass Effect, and I still remember it being such a game changer. I remember being in the news, I remember being in newspapers and magazines and every game shop, how it had evolved into gaming had evolved into a bigger form of storytelling.
Yeah,
that's for me that I'll never forget. Now, and this game did it. It did that whole thing where who doesn't want to be Commander Shepard? Who doesn't want to save the galaxy? Who doesn't want to do the roles with which you can either be good or bad? And this played that through. Like I said, I'll never forget how much fun it was to play as Shepard, which strangely enough was originally only going to be female. There was never actually going to be a male character. It was always going to be a female until they changed that later.
I actually prefer FemShep.
Caleb, out of curiosity, did you only ever play as a guy, or did you change genders every once in a while?
So I've done so many runs of the game. I've done male ship, fem ship, Paragon, Renegade, how I as Caleb Janssens would do it. Then I've got like variations. I'm like, okay, what would I do if I was like I would give my own Shepards their own backstory to like try explain their own motivations, because you have those 3 stock backstories. I was like, yeah, I've played those 3 now, so I'd like come up with a story that like the one guy, like Flip, what was his name, like Omega Prime or something like that, and he's like, he was raised on a Krogan planet, and so he has a massive respect for the Krogan, and he wants to make sure that they're all right because they are the people who raised them. So like I've played it with every possible variation, even ones that the game doesn't technically allow.
So that's cool. You went like full on role play. You like did your own thing, backstory. You just went every decision had a reason behind it, right?
100%.
That's cool. That's deep. That's like a hardcore game. That is.
This game is already a mile deep. Caleb has taken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's taken even deeper. Yeah, no doubt.
I remember you were talking earlier, Dave, about how the news was even picking up on this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it even ties into the narrative. The news was picking up how you could have relationships with your crew and just sleep around.
Yeah, in layman's sense, you could bang aliens, and that's what they didn't like.
That's the thing. You could.
Yeah. Let's face it. Which gamer out there or nerd or something doesn't enjoy that aspect of these games? You know, it's one of those. I remember on the news it was a big thing because you could, of course, the romance scenes, and I believe it was one of the first games that did homosexual relationships and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was. I remember it being a big weird taboo that these were being displayed on video games, even though this video game, I think, was rated mature anyway, originally. But I remember it being such a big thing, which fundamentally, BioWare, they actually won because they were like, this is the evolution of gaming. It's the evolution of storytelling. It's what
it does make sense.
Their customers want. We want relationships. We want complexity. We want this way or that way. You know, but I do. I remember it was a big headline thing. I remember Sky News and all those things bringing it up. It's one of those things why it's one of probably my top 20 list of games one should play because it was such a game changer.
Yeah, it does make sense that you're calling it an evolution of gaming because now that we're looking back on it in 2007, it very much evolved gaming. Yeah. Sorry, Caleb, I interrupted you.
No, it's all good. I think you know how right now there's just that inherent hatred for like the news and like people are like, no, we can't trust the news and everything like that.
Yeah, of course.
Me realizing I couldn't trust the news was when they were having debates about the ethics of this game, and they're like, who are you? You can control them during the sex scenes, like you perverts. I was like, are you kidding me? What sort of news anchor goes into a debate talking about how you can have sex with these aliens without even playing the game? Because she was saying like, oh yeah, I saw that you can do this, and this, and I was like, this woman has no idea what she's talking about because all of it is just so blatantly false.
Yeah, it's just for shock value, right? It's keywords and shock value and just to get the clicks and the ratings. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
There's a clip of Jeff Keighley on one of these debates. I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but there's a clip of Jeff Keighley actually asking an anchor, have you actually played the video game?
That's the exact one I'm talking about. That's the exact one. Because she was saying all of this outlandish stuff. And he's like, there we go. That's not my game. Like, you're not describing what I've made at all.
Yeah, that would be insulting. Yeah. Somebody comes on, right next to you and they're talking about something they've not even tried. Like, what, that. And sadly, you're absolutely right. That's the news then and today. You don't even have to back up or collaborate your stories in most senses. You just need to say the most shocking thing you can. And you're right. Media and the news nowadays, especially in regards to gaming, they do virtually no research at all. It's just for
and they
clickbait.
Just antagonize gaming. Yeah. So to pivot back into the narrative for Mass Effect, I've not completed this game, but I've come up until a point where I realized that the choices I'm making in this game have a very large and they have a very long-term impact on my game. I've met with Matriarch Benezia.
Of course, yeah.
I've not. What? Sorry.
Of course, yeah. No, it's a classic.
Yeah. I've not met up with Saren just yet, but after meeting up with Matriarch Benezia, there's this big hive mind crab alien thing.
You mean the Rachni?
Yes. Rachni Queen.
That's right.
And she's talking about how her babies are singing and crying and whatever, and then you can choose whether to let her go or to incinerator or whatever.
Due to the fact there was a Arachnid war about 50 or 60 years prior, which almost wiped out the entire civilization. So you had the thresholds of genocide, I suppose, and or being kind to an alien race that was on its last legs. So it was a big decision.
Exactly.
That was a massive decision in the game.
Yeah. I don't know what the two of you decided, but I decided to let this Arachne Queen go because I felt sorry.
No,
for
it's
him.
fine. You're supposed to have compassion for such things.
Right?
Yeah.
And while I was proudly bragging to some of my friends while we were having beers one night, I let the Arachne Queen go, and they all face palmed.
Well, wait. I have some stuff to add.
Go on.
Yeah, please.
So, firstly, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but Matriarch Benezia, sorry, I only remembered now because you brought her up. That is, the voice actor for her is Billie Eilish's mom.
What?
No way!
Whoa!
Well,
that's one.
Cool. Yeah.
I kind of want to give story spoilers, but like you haven't seen the ramifications of releasing the Arachne Queen. But like,
Yeah, same. I've got that same feeling in my head. Yeah, go on.
what's crazy is I think there's technically 4 different primary outcomes that can result of that, because it impacts the second and third game, but primarily the third game, because whether or not you save that Arachne Queen impacts one of the missions for Mass Effect 3, and then of those outcomes, they're different depending on your decisions in Mass Effect 1.
Yeah,
so like,
that's right.
there are certain things that literally can't happen because of your decision in Mass Effect 1, and vice versa. If you kill her or if you let her go, then in Mass Effect 3, there's certain things that always happen and certain things that can never happen.
That's so cool.
Yeah, in this space
cool.
opera, the decisions really do affect the future, and not just in the single game itself, in the 2 others too. And yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Caleb. I know we don't want to do spoilers, but yeah, I know exactly the part, and I know exactly what you're talking about in regards to either letting them go or killing them off, because it is a big deal. It is a massive deal in these games.
At least someone else gets it.
Yeah, I know. I am biting at the bit right now, just not to tell Nick or anybody else listening, because it is a big decision, no doubt.
Then let's move on. The Reapers.
Yeah.
The Reapers in this game, I'm a bit confused.
Go on.
Are the Reapers the same things as the Geth?
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So,
if you actually, this is what's crazy. If you actually want to know what the Reapers are, you don't even have to play all 3 games. You have to play all 3 games plus the DLCs, and then you only understand what the Reapers actually are.
And of course, they actually released comics, books, a couple animated films, I believe, as well. You know, the lore in this game is deep, and
again, a mile wide and also a mile deep.
Fundamentally, the Geth were synthetic robots that the Quarians made to fight wars for them. Yeah, thank you. And then became sentient and went against them, and then the Reapers kind of used them. Yeah, it's a big long thing. The Geth, it's complicated. And then later on, you get Legion. Yeah, it's a big thing. You need to.
I'm out of my depth.
Yeah. That's the thing about Mass Effect. The story is so gorgeously deep and complex, and this is why it's one of those top 20 for me, and always will be.
What's also crazy about Mass Effect, like, as someone that, again, I'm going to talk about the whole trilogy here, as someone that played the entire trilogy, there would be things you didn't even realize you were missing, or that you had to do in certain ways. So like, I think on like my 7th or 8th playthrough of the full trilogy, I saw a character pop up from Mass Effect 1, and I was like, whoa. How the hell did that just happen? Not realizing that there was an entire like new set of quests that I've now unlocked that I didn't know existed before.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
From doing something different.
Yep.
From one of his other playthroughs.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what, like I said, I was reading, the director was a guy named Casey Hudson, who was also the project director of the Knights of the Old Republic, the Star Wars games, which I'm sure both of you know, right?
100%.
Where they developed the Paragon system to actually have a meaningful effect. But in Mass Effect, they just did that on such a grander scale. You know, He was actually quite prolific. He helped do Baldur's Gate, the original 1 and 2. He did Knights of the Old Republic. He helped do Jade Empire, the role-playing game. And, of course, Dragon Age Origins. And I'm not entirely sure if he did 2 and or 3, depending on how you call it. So this guy is pretty much the grandfather of well, he certainly had a change in the aspect that decisions change the way your game plays, and and he mainly directed the plot in this as well, so that it would have such a big plot change depending on your decisions. So cool.
What's he done since Mass Effect 3? Do we know?
I know he's.
Is he on the new?
Go on.
Is he on the new Dragon Age game?
I think he might be. I'd be surprised if he wasn't, because I think he's been on board all the Dragon Age games so far. But I think he jumped from BioWare to somebody else and then back to BioWare. I forget. Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 really took BioWare on a loop, because everything was like, the timeline they had in regards to what they could turn around was actually ridiculous. And you can actually feel that when you play the game. The third act is so rushed. And
yeah, no, I agree entirely. Yeah.
What, for Mass Effect 3?
For Mass Effect 3, yes. Like,
okay.
It's very, very rushed at the end of Mass Effect 3, and you can actually see that, like, if you play the game, you can see exactly what went wrong. And I know a lot of people hated working on Mass Effect 3. I think it was because EA was just pushing for so much and had so much, like, conditions. And if I remember correctly, like, Casey Hudson, I think, even left as creative director straight after the game was released.
He did. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what I'm remembering in my head too. He did leave because of, we all know the stories of EA are they're not the nicest company in the world. And yeah, I agree. I remember, we all know the ending Mass Effect 3 was never great, still isn't. And you're right, the idea that they built such a massive premise in Mass Effect 1 and 2, and then 3 came along and you were like, I'm expecting the epic, like Lord of the Rings, like the third movie. I need this big showdown, this super built up thing, and it just Mass Effect 3 didn't deliver on that.
No, I've never.
No, you're missing out.
I don't have any input. I've never played Mass Effect 3.
This is why your friends somewhat make fun of you, because you haven't played Mass Effect, and one should.
Oh man. Oh how the turntables. Your friends are making fun of you for not.
Yeah, I know. Right, back in the day, you were made fun of to some degree because one was a geek or a nerd, and now, of course, you're making fun of because you haven't played enough. Fundamentally, you can't win. But hey, like I said, I'm glad that the geek culture has become so mainstream now. Makes me feel
Are you actually telling me that you have a life outside of video games? How lame are you to not waste like 40 hours of your life playing one game and not talking to people and having a social life? You must be so lame.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep the dream. I'm trying to keep the dream alive. Like that is possible. You can go outside and play games, and I'd love. I'm just trying to keep that notion, like, for the next generation to come, that they will try and do it. But no, you're right. I don't even know what day of year it is.
I've been wanting to get into the characters of Mass Effect. So the characters for Mass Effect 1 differ from 2 and 3.
To some degree.
Right?
Yeah.
Because 2's got Miranda and
Jacob.
Yeah. And 3's got other characters as well. Do the characters from 1 transfer over to 2 and 3?
100%. 100%.
One of your companions in Mass Effect. Yeah, Ashley, right? She's in your companion. She's part of your team in 3, right?
There's a reason why she's called Ash.
Why is that?
On Vermeer, that's what she becomes when I play.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Oh, man, whoa!
I get it now. I didn't even think of that.
Okay, wait.
I didn't even think of that. Of course. Big decision. Wow, yeah, I've like I said, my mind's slightly blown. I obviously not played Mass Effect 3 as many times as I should. Well, yeah.
Well, okay.
Go on.
Vermeer. Yeah. Okay, I started a conversation about characters.
Vermeer is actually a great character study, to be honest. Because in Vermeer, you have the situation where one of my favorite characters, Rex, he realizes that he has the opportunity to save his entire race. And you as the player can ultimately say, actually, no, screw you guys, because you guys waged war on us and almost like exterminated a bunch of different people. And ultimately, it's up to you whether or not to cure this thing called the genophage. And how you decide to go about doing that impacts your relationship with not just Rex himself, but also potentially Caden and Ashley, who are your two, I want to say, almost generic human characters. Like, they're not they're not aliens or anything. They're just the human characters. And ultimately, you can't save them both. Like, you have to say goodbye to one of them.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, did you not?
I had no
Oh
idea.
yeah, that's the big one. It's the doozy in the game. Yeah, no doubt.
And so basically, like, that mission, again, depending on who you choose to do in certain ways, it completely changes how Mass Effect 3 takes place as well. Because now there's an entire character absent. And that character ends up playing quite a significant role, especially in regards to how humans are viewed in the world, in the world of Mass Effect 3.
So this is one of, if not the biggest example of how decisions in your game influences the story later on. I can't think of another game, let alone trilogy, that does it as good as Mass Effect.
100%.
Yeah, there's also a big decision right at the end of Mass Effect, which I won't go into, but there's also a super, right, when all the stakes are high, and there's this final decision you've got to make, which also does a massive effect on Mass Effect 2 and 3. Like, I won't do the spoilers, but...
Oh, jeez.
Like I said, this is what I love about you. You bring up the Krogans, my favorite, because they're battle crazed. They were chemically castrated due to war and to stop their numbers. And later on, the genophage, which they try to cure, the Solarians feel super guilty because they designed it. And then later on, after the war, they actually have almost a complex because they've destroyed a race of people, and so they try to fix it again. You know, like I said, the characterization of the story in this thing, the Mass Effect games, are so cool. I love it to death. Sorry, that was just a tidbit.
It's great. It really is. This narrative isn't the space for this. This might be value for money, but aren't these games like almost 100 hours?
I'd say so. Caleb, you sound like the expert. You played these games a number of times.
So, when I do a full run nowadays, and I'm someone that now, because I know what decisions I want to make, like, I almost know the dialogue on the back of my hand. So, like, I'm going to be that guy. I basically skip dialogue sequences now because I know exactly who's going to say what. I know what decisions to make. And the issue is the dialogue is a massive chunk of the game. So, like, my average playtime for Mass Effect 1 is around 24 hours. And then it's just 2 hours on from each game. So, Mass Effect 2 is 26, and then Mass Effect 3 is 28. So, like, but that's just because I'm actually skipping almost half of the game because I know what I'm like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to make sure that Jacob doesn't do this because I hate Jacob. I won't lie. Jacob is a useless character. Like,
yeah, I didn't like Jacob either, I must admit.
Screw you, Jacob. I don't know.
Honestly, Jacob sucks. I'm going to get a lot of hate, but I think Miranda Lawson is the best love interest, except for maybe Liara.
Oh, I agree entirely. Like I said, Miranda, the gameplay, Mass Effect 2 was definitely my choice.
Well, okay, but now we're getting into the most important question of probably this entire podcast. Who would you bang?
Hey, man, granted. Now, the complexity of that question isn't actually that simple. There are multiple people, and like Caleb says, it depends on
the playthrough,
what kind of character you're being, right?
Oh, okay. So,
but there is actually only one real answer.
Yes,
and that is Grunt.
I loved Grunt. I also loved Grunt. He was the
Who's
best.
Grunt?
Mass Effect 2, right?
Yeah, Mass Effect 2. So Grunt is one of the few companions you actually can't romance, which annoyed me, but it makes sense because he's literally like a baby. Like, you birth him out of a tub, and then he's like, I think 7 days old. So, like, that would be a little bit weird, but also he's a Krogan, so I'm pretty sure he'd rip anyone in half.
Okay, so Grunt is a Krogan.
Yes.
He was biologically engineered to try and stop the genophage phage from happening. So it was kind of like how they could try to reproduce their species again. Grunt was the best.
Yeah.
I also loved that scene in Mass Effect where you have to headbutt a Krogan to show respect, because I love that bit. It was so out of the blue where you just as a human headbutt them and they love it because they should just.
But it's so dumb as well because their heads are literally giant shields. Like,
I know, right?
You're not winning that. Like, they might have been like, oh, this guy's got moxie, but they know if they did it back, you're dead. Like, have you guys ever run head first into a wall? It hurts. That's basically what he did.
Yes.
But still, memorable moments. As bizarre as it is, it was a fantastic moment.
I've not dived into the characters, obviously, for Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, but those in Mass Effect 1, I like. Does it stop at 6? Right? it's 6 characters for the entire game. Ashley, Caden, Garrus, Tali, Liara, and Rex. Are those the only 6 for the entire game?
No. So like there is like side characters that you can kind of like have one-off relationships with. So like I forget her name, but there's an Asari that like she's basically a high-end like escort that you can kind of like have a quick little thing with if you're a renegade, but if you're a paragon, she just reads you a poem or something. But also it's about the character development, because if you look at like, I'll use Liara as an example, because I think trilogy-wise, from the beginning to the end, Liara probably has the best relationship with Shepard. If you're looking game specific, I would say Miranda Lawson from Mass Effect 2. But Liara throughout the whole game, maybe even Tali, because both of those characters go from this point of view where they're kind of young and naive. And then life happens to them.
You're right.
And they become a lot more mature. And it's not just, what I like about this game is none of the characters, they all have relationship problems. They'll be like, oh my gosh, you've done this. I disagree with your choices here. But these are also characters that are carrying the weight of the entire universe on their shoulders. So like, they're written so well in the fact that you never once go, oh yeah, this is just like a school kid romance. You go, no, they realize that like the world is ending. And in many ways, some of the characters view relationships as distractions, because they're like, no, I don't want to do this. We need to focus on saving the world. So that it's a very mature look at how people aren't stagnant. There's a ton of character development between the two games.
Yes.
Oh no, definitely, and he's right. Like I said, these are the main 6 are your normal ones, but you've also got Joker, the Navigator. His story develops, and your relationship with him develops. Even the Doctor, exactly. There are lots of he's right. There's lots of side characters that you actually develop relationships with, not necessarily romantic, but they become your crew, your actual crew. The people, even if they're not on the Normandy anymore,
you get attached to these people.
Yeah, really do. And even the companions in Mass Effect 2 kind of have a big story in Mass Effect 3 later on, when you either bump into them or they have story features and stuff. Yeah, it's well fleshed out. It's crazy fleshed out. Like,
okay,
yeah, you have no idea fundamentally. Yeah,
I don't because I've got 10 minutes per day to play games.
That's true.
Jumping into a 100+ hour trilogy that I need to read most of the time. I don't know. But anyway, I think we could keep going.
We could about narrative, all day.
4.
I know I could. Yeah,
exactly, all day. But we need to let's go on to visuals, because we've still got 5 more segments left.
This is going to have some contention, right? Because, you know, with how spoiled we are visually now. Like I've been looking at Armored Core. That's a beautiful game. We all played Elden Ring. Stunning game. These games now are... Like you often say, Nick, their artwork, you know, they really are pleasing to the eye to see. And like Caleb said earlier, when you go back to Mass Effect 1, the retrospective that you get can be somewhat jarring, right?
Definitely. I've not played these games on the original Xbox.
Well,
I've just played the Legendary Editions.
Of course.
So I don't know what these games looked like originally.
You see, so that's the thing, like, you can tell that especially Mass Effect 1 is a 2007 game. And you can look at it from 2 point of views. Like, the graphics are limited by the hardware of the time, but the aesthetics of the game is amazing. Like, you can walk around the Citadel today, even not playing the Legendary Edition, but you can look at the architecture and you realize, this is incredible, because not only are they having to design something that looks nice, they're having to design something that looks nice that feels alien at the same time. And every single alien culture, like, you can tell there's different cultures because the characters wear different clothes. They walk differently. They talk differently. So there's a difference between something that looks pretty and something that's designed well. And I'll say Mass Effect 1, before it got the update in the Legendary Edition, not necessarily a pretty game by today's standards, but it's a beautifully designed game from a design point of view.
That's it. That's it. That's my same argument for Dark Souls in 2011. The game it really doesn't look great graphically wise. The graphical fidelity is nice and low, but the art direction is what puts it through the roof. And the same for Mass Effect, right? If you walk around the Citadel or all of these other planets as well, I think I'm on one where you're in a ton of skyscrapers above the clouds or something.
That's right. Full of Geth, right?
Yes, it's full of Geth. And the art direction is just like you said, Caleb. That's what made this game look, well, not necessarily good, but memorable.
I'll put the design of the characters in the same league as like Star Wars or even Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Each like there's who even thinks of something like a Solarian? It's a flipping bipedal frog. And then you get the Krogan, who are basically like walking, talking rhinos without horns, but they're basically tanks. And then like down the line, you get the more grotesque characters like the Batarians and the Vorcha. Like they're all so incredibly different.
And it's like you said, it's the uniqueness of their background that they like. You said, the Solarians being amphibian, they also have 2 eyelids, and because they're amphibians, and amphibians are known to have quite quick healing properties. They've times that by 10 that Solarians think very fast. Their synaptic responses are very quick. That's why they're super intelligent, and they actually speak faster, because their brains work faster than most others, and that's why they always speak in a rapid tongue and like in a hurry. And they've done that with so many. There's I don't know what they're called, but there's those big heavy dudes that talk really slowly, and they're big and muscular and they've got big bone structures because the planet they're from has got a heavy gravity. And there's so many who wear masks.
The Ulcor, I think they're the Ulcor. Yeah. They hang out with their hand out a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And that's the cleverness. It's the fact that every design choice, especially like you said with the characters, there's a reason. There's a reason this one is big. There's a reason this one is small. There's a reason this one wears a mask and this one doesn't. There's a reason why the Asari are all female. There are no males. It's so clever. They're visually, like you said, Star Wars and Star Trek and Doctor Who. The depth that went into the characters they made and the races and the species and the conflict amongst them visually is just a meal to take in.
Yeah, it seems like you could immediately tell apart everyone. You could immediately tell who's who. I'm looking at screenshots of the game now. I'm seeing I think this is Mass Effect 2 because I don't think he's in Mass Effect 1. I might be wrong though. There's a green guy. It looks like he's got an exoskeleton with black eyes. Who?
Yeah, that's right.
He is one of the suavest. He's basically the James Bond of Mass Effect.
Oh!
Ooh, okay.
He was also an assassin. He was cool.
This guy looks cool.
Yeah, he is. He's very cool.
I like
him.
No,
that's only Mass Effect 2. Does he come back in Mass Effect 3, Caleb? I forget.
He does, but like, it is. There's like, I think, 1, 2. There's like 2 or 3 ways his story goes down, and all of them are heartbreaking.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, shame.
That
makes sense. I get over his character. That's a shame. Because he is cool. You're right, Nick. Even just by looking at him.
Yeah. Before we move past this topic, sorry, because we're talking about the unique designs and everything, this might lean back into narrative, but like, what's great about these characters as well is like, they're not caricatures of their race. So like, if you take... let's actually use Thane as an example. You only ever see 2 of Thane's race because they're very, very rare. And the other one you see is Kodak, who's his son. But their personalities are completely different, but they still exist within the constraints of their species. So they've done such a good job of writing these characters. Like if you look at Tali, how she interacts with the different Quarians, they all have similar mannerisms in the way they interact with one another, but they're completely unique characters. So they've done such a great job of trying to make these characters almost feel stereotypical in the fact that they all are limited by the constraints of their race and their species, but they are still 100% unique and unlike any other character.
No, it's very true. Like I say, it's always one of those things when you play a game, you look at something, you think it looks pretty, but then when you can break it down and actually see those complexities, you actually see, again, this is art. This is someone who sat down and thought about this for many, many hours and then just magically put that on the screen for you all to see.
Yeah.
And like many other games and games you play now, that's why Mass Effect is so good, because it isn't generic Alien A, and like you said, it isn't just they're angry all the time and for the sake of being angry, that just because they're the angry race of aliens. There's so much complexity in like the narrative and the detail of it.
Yes, and what the look and who they are, it
exactly.
goes hand in hand, which is amazing. I would say though that while I was playing this game, the planets look great. I liked looking at the planets, but the immediate environment around you does not.
Yes. No, you're 100% correct. No, I think he's talking about the planets you go explore with the flipping.
With the Mako.
Yes.
The buggy vehicle thing, right?
Yeah.
Those are barren.
No, not just yes, that, and also every other planet. I think the first planet it's something with an N. I know it. It's all frozen.
Technically,
Is that it?
that's right. But the first planet is Eden Prime. Eden Prime.
Hey, nice. Yeah, he's right.
Of course.
He got you there, by all accounts.
Yeah, he did. In Novaria, you are in this little settlement that's got a bar, it's got a garage, it's got a governor man. That entire settlement looks horrid.
Yeah.
It's so bad. I can't believe this game, with the characters looking like this and the planets, the vistas looking like they do, has just a big cement box for a room with people in it. That looks bad.
But you could argue that was just to display the aspect of corporalism.
You could
taking that planet and making money off it, and so they didn't need any whistles or anything nice. They were there to make money, to do their science stuff behind closed doors without any jurisdiction. Right. It's supposed to be a cold place you don't want to visit. I'll give you that it still doesn't look pretty.
Is that it though? Is it that, or is it just, or does it just look bad because it's a 2007 game?
Stock. Yeah, it could. I'd argue. Like I said, I'm trying to put the positives on one of my favorite games. But yeah, I'd also agree it isn't a pretty place by anyone's standard.
No.
I would like to say this. I feel like the developers did a great job realizing once they released Mass Effect 1 what their limitations were. Because you'll notice the moment you play Mass Effect 2, all of the maps are significantly smaller, but infinitely more detailed.
Yeah,
really?
right.
Yes. It's like they did a complete 180. It's like, I think, you know how like almost every single Mass Effect 1 mission, you use the Mako and you have to explore this barren wasteland. There's none of that in Mass Effect 2. There's only one mission where you can use, or there's two technically, two missions where you can use a vehicle. It's called a Hammerhead. It's basically a hover version of the Mako, but those are only DLC missions. So they basically were like, yeah, we understood this was our weakness. And then they improved. And that's what I love about the Mass Effect games is until you get to Andromeda, it just feels like every single game is a perfect evolution of the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a quality over quantity, so to speak. You know, they fine-tuned the environments. There's no doubt. I can picture all of them in my head. The environments in Mass Effect 2 were just another level of fun and immersive. And you're right, I still remember going the Mako on planets, and whenever you saw a flat bit of planet, you always knew one of those worm things were going to attack you. So yeah, that's right, the Thrasher Maw. So you always just knew, oh, well, there's a Thrasher Maw here, it's flat. Which, you know, as a design thing, isn't the most exciting aspect. But remember, Mass Effect 2 also had that weird scanning the planet mechanic, which I
loved. Don't
so
hate
weird.
on. I loved the mini games.
Oh, really?
And it's probably just nostalgia, but I loved the mini games in Mass Effect 2. I could hack and bypass with my eyes closed. Like I could still hear music in my head.
But those planet ones, there were too many planets. There was just too much.
They were like, hey, look at all the planets you can go to. You can't technically go onto them. But what was nice about Mass Effect 2, and I'll say this as well, so you got the ability to scan planets overall. What they don't tell you in the game at all, they literally don't tell you this, is that you do get side missions. And you can unlock them, but they're not like, they're in your journal, but they're not highlighted or anything like that.
That's
and there are certain missions, there are certain planets you can go to and scan, and then they're just like, oh, stuff, like this person's in trouble, go to the planets and save them. And like, you actually have to explore so many different planets before you can find one you can actually interact with. But they're all so unique in the way they're designed. Like there's this one, it's just a mist planet. And like, as you move through the mist, you have these like fire-spitting spiders that approach you. Like I haven't played that island in a while. That planet in a while. But like, you never know what you're going to experience when you visit these side planets. So you have your primary hub worlds like the Citadel, like Tuchanka, like Ilium. Then you have your mission worlds where like you go there once or twice to do a mission. And then you get these side planets which are not even registered anywhere effectively that you can just happen across.
Yes, I remember.
That's right, I remember.
So exploration is rewarded. Exploration is rewarded, which is something that the game doesn't actually tell you until you discover it for yourself.
Very few games do that. The latest one that I can think of is Elden Ring. It doesn't tell you shit. But if you go explore, if you go look around, you will be rewarded. And that's cool. That's good game design.
And just one thing, visually, I gotta say, the Normandy now has become an iconic spaceship. You know, I wouldn't put it quite up there as Millennium Falcon or the Enterprise, but I think most people, even you, Nick, must recognize the Normandy from 10 paces away or something.
Yes,
you know,
true.
And the N7 shirt or the armor, because you know that was cool. Even when I was in when I first played the game, I thought I want that armor. That's one of the things this game always did really well, was the armor looked cool. I know it's a weird thing to say, but it was always true. Yeah, it was really like sexy or badass and stuff like that. And that was a really weird detail they put in, that the armor always looked cool, doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah. And even if you pick up new armor and you put it on, it still looked cool.
Yeah, and it was snug. Like there was no pot bellies or anything in Mass Effect.
And you had these shoulder pads and
yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Cool's the right word.
And I think that's also a good example. Sorry, talking about the armor system. The armor and the weapon system is completely different in Mass Effect 2 and 3. Like, what they wanted to do, I feel like what they really wanted to do is they wanted to focus on storytelling and then quick, sharp, intense action sequences. Because you don't pick up guns and you don't pick up armor the way you do in Mass Effect 1. It's a completely different system.
No, very much so. In fact, the armor system in Mass Effect 1 is kind of boring.
Listen, wait a minute. I need
version 5 or version 6 of the one you had before. Yeah.
I need to say something.
Yeah.
It really sounds like Mass Effect 1 was just the first pancake.
Yes, 100%. It was the waffle child. Yeah. You always screw up on your first waffle or pancake.
Yes, and they added a ton of sugar so people still ate it. But then when Mass Effect 2 and 3 came around, they made these systems that a lot of people fell in love with. And that maybe fumbled the ending of the trilogy. I don't know. But Mass Effect 1, is that the best starting point for anyone trying to get into this trilogy? It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be, but like, for example, I told my wife, just go straight to Mass Effect 2. Because Mass Effect 2 does a good enough job of telling you what happened before, that you can piece together everything. You just have to like really concentrate. But if you are someone that like, so for example, my wife's favorite game is Red Dead Redemption 2. That is a smooth game and everything makes sense. And she plays that game like all the time. So if you go from something like from Red Dead to Mass Effect 1, it's going to feel like a downgrade and it's going to feel like a chore.
Yeah.
But if you play Mass Effect 2, then 3, then you go, exactly what happened to me. Well, damn, I really want to know how this game starts. And then because you're so invested in the story, you're willing to put up with the more clunky stuff.
Okay. And you will put up with it because you're invested in the narrative already.
Yes, 100%.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to see the evolution from when I played 1. And it just came out. Then, of course, I was hooked. So I definitely bought Mass Effect 2 when it just came out. The same with Mass Effect 3. I potentially even pre-ordered it. So, but I do completely. I get what you're saying entirely. I do agree. Mass Effect 2 is massively the better game. And you're right. You don't need to play Mass Effect 1. But when you've played it, the idea that you don't know the origin story, that would get me too much. You'd have to go back. But yeah, I go on.
If you play Mass Effect 2, then 3. You experience something, right? But if you go back and play Mass Effect 1, the amount of changes you make to the game, and also this is something I didn't know until I replayed the game, there are certain cutscenes and certain characters you will not meet ever if you only play Mass Effect 2. You have to play Mass Effect 1 first, And then just because you've played that game, it will reward you by going, oh, remember this character from the first game? So you actually, when you play 2 and 3 again after playing number 1, it feels like a whole new experience because there's so many things that just pop up that weren't there before.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, you're right. You'd actually have a complete new gameplay loop because this is one of the first games that actually used the save state that you had in the other game to load into the next one. I know it's very common now, but this was one of the ones where after you completed Mass Effect 1, your save state was then used for Mass Effect 2 so that you would see the characters, you see the decisions you made.
Yes.
You could make a quick one at the beginning of Mass Effect 2 where you could make the decisions in like a questionnaire. But it really was worth it having the first one to move on to the second one in regards to how you treated people. And you're right, not having that part, you're playing 2 different games because you'll meet people in your second playthrough that you never met in your first one because you didn't play the first one, if you know what I mean.
So like it's crazy because again, like I played Mass Effect 2 like maybe 9-10 times before I got hold of Mass Effect 1 and 3. And I remember playing Mass Effect 1 and then playing Mass Effect 2. And all of a sudden, all the characters I met in number 1, like, for example, there's this green Asari you meet in number 1. And then all of a sudden she appears in number 2. I'm like, no, but I've walked past this place before. You're not supposed to be here. But just because I'd invested a few hours into the first game, I got it. And talking about moving the saves across, like, it's crazy that they implement that because think of about all of the other great RPGs of our time currently, and that being the Elder Scrolls. And I understand the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, you're not playing the same character, but they deliberately set up the world where what you did in the previous game can't impact what's happening. That's why they're always in different places and years apart. Even The Witcher, and I love The Witcher 3, but it doesn't carry your decisions from the first 2 games. They kind of ask you a few questions at the beginning, but it doesn't actually carry over your individual questions.
I guess it's easier to make a game that way, right? Because you don't have to... It's like Baldur's Gate 3. They've done a masterpiece work of decision making and the different doors one goes through or doesn't go through. That's hard. That's a massive undertaking. And like you said, with The Witcher, I guess it's easier to concentrate on one story and those decisions compared to adding all the others beforehand. Because, those different doors you take would get into the thousands later on as you go down through the games. No, it's remarkably well done.
Really is. I had to be the one to keep cutting these segments short.
Yeah, that's right.
We can even have a follow-up episode, but let's move on to the audio, which is another part where I think the Mass Effect trilogy shines. Not just voice acting wise, but for the soundtrack as well.
Well, I just got to quickly ask. I know, Nick, you won't know this, the answer there. You won't know this part, but Caleb, have you watched Aliens?
Yes.
The second Alien movie,
of course.
And you know who Bishop is in Aliens?
Yes.
Do you know he's the voice of Admiral Hackett? It was my favorite.
No way! It makes so much sense. Yeah. I can hear it now. I can hear it.
Yeah, Bishop is... now, Nick, I know you won't know this. You've not watched Aliens, have you?
How? You didn't even ask me.
Sorry, Nick. Have you watched Aliens?
No.
Well, there you go. Did you? There's your moment. Well, Bishop is iconic.
Talking about...
Go on, Caleb.
Talking about the voice actors, you know who does Admiral Anderson?
I know. I can picture him. I forget his name. He's. That's it. He's always everyone's father in like movies and stuff, right? I can picture him. Yeah.
He was like my dream casting when they were going to redo The Lion King, which was a terrible movie, but anyway, when they were going to redo it, I wanted Keith David to be Simba because he just has that like he's not as bassy as Mufasa, but he has that authority in his voice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No, I know exactly what you mean.
But he literally plays Keith David in Saints Row 3.
Yeah.
You have to be so freaking cool to do that.
No, that is cool. I didn't know. I only just realised that it's like Nicolas Cage playing himself in that movie that came out too recent. I forgot what that's called now. I know. I love if you. Sorry, Nick. I know we kind of interrupted, but the voice acting work and the pedigree who's actually in this game is actually quite astounding. If you go through it, first of all, of course, Bishop from Aliens. You not watched Nick, but he's kind of. He has the great redemption story in Aliens.
Yes.
He's kind of a bad android person, then turns into. he redeems himself. He's classic.
Oh, okay.
For me, he's my childhood, and just to know that he was Hackett, just put a big smile on my face.
If anyone wants to listen to us talk about aliens, go take a look at our Patreon for the Critical Cinema podcast. It should be there.
There we go. That's how you do a plug correctly. I approve of that plug. That was smooth. But last one, voice actors.
Go on.
Jennifer Hale as Femship. Jennifer Hale has to be one of the best like video game voice actors at the moment. Like from like a female voice actor. I freaking love everything she's ever done. She is such a remarkable voice actress.
Didn't she take over from the Bayonetta? Was she the third Bayonetta, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, that's right. And she also did Samus in Metroid Prime, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
She's Samus Aran?
That's it, thank you. I'm going to say it wrong.
And she's also done Ash in Overwatch.
That I didn't know.
Was she really?
That I didn't know.
Yes, she's the voice of Ash in Overwatch. Whenever she yells, "Bob!" That's Jennifer Hale.
Wow, that was quite the impersonation. Like I said,
Thank you.
But even Ashley Williams, Kimberly Brooks, I know you're a big Batman fan. She does the voice for Oracle in the Arkham.
Yes,
Arkham games,
the Arkham games. We reviewed Arkham City not too long ago.
Ashley Williams, as in the companion in Mass Effect 1,
yes,
the same voice. The same voice actress, a lady named Kimberly Brooks.
Oh, man.
I just know you love your Batman, so I thought I'd add that for you.
It's very, very cool.
Well, she was also one of the okay, you guys just did Bioshock Infinite with that freaking geek. The Lutece, how do you say their name? The twins.
Yeah, I don't know. I know exactly what you mean, but I don't know how you say their name. I think we came to contention on that on the episode as well. Go on.
Jennifer Hale does the voice of the woman twin.
No.
Yeah, as soon as you say that, I can hear it.
Wow.
As soon as you said that, I can hear it.
That's so great. These voice actors, they've got a certain way of getting. It's definitely acting, even if it's just your voice into a microphone.
No,
it's definitely acting. That's why no one can do what Troy Baker does, or or Jennifer Hale, or any of these big name voice actors.
I just finished listening to J.K.'s. Is it J.K. Simmons in Baldur's Gate 3? Wow. Wow. I was like, damn, the idea that he's just in a studio, the presence he brings on that mic is insane. But yeah, like I said, voice acting, like you said, is acting. It's actually relatively harder because you're just in front of a mic. You're not acting off someone, potentially. You're acting in the moment. So that's not, like I said, that...
I can speak to that personally. So for those of you that don't know, like I do voice acting as well. And we're busy doing quite a few different shows on Netflix at the moment. But like, what's crazy about, because I studied acting and I've done a lot of stage performances. What's difficult about voice acting is you do not have your body to evoke emotion. And people don't realize that. Like, your body and your body language makes acting so much easier than if you're just emoting through your mouth. Like,
you got the visual keys, right?
Exactly.
Like, slouched shoulders and stuff like that. Whereas voice acting, you don't. Yeah.
Like, you actually have to, if your character is just sad, like, but not noticeably sad, you can exactly what you said. You can tell it through the droopy shoulders and stuff like that. But when you're voice acting, you have to find a way of showing that nuance in your performance. And nuance is so difficult with voice acting.
Yeah.
No, I can imagine entirely. It's a new way of learning how to speak, right? Because you don't really ever, when you're sad, you're sad. You don't often have to try and be sad to display you're sad because you're actually it. So you got to switch it on, which, like I said, is extremely complex.
That's hard. That's
right?
not easy. Yeah. Not at all.
The first session I ever did of voice acting was for the show called Falling Into Your Smile. And my character, basically, he decides he's retiring. And he gives this whole long emotional speech. And I remember acting my heart out and going, that was phenomenal. I'm so good. I am the best voice actor in the world. And then I listened to the playback, and it just sounded like I was talking normally. Like,
oh, wow.
Put so much effort into my body that my voice wasn't reflecting it. And that's the thing. Like, your voice has to do the heavy lifting.
Oh, that's cool. Like I say, I can imagine the jarring effect of being high, like so high that you did so well, and then you hear it and you're like, whoa. like I've got to relearn everything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
So I think for a game in 2007 to have this much voice acting everywhere is impressive in its own, right? just having voice acting everywhere, if it's good or not, but just having it in every corner of this game, that's fantastic.
Especially when you compare it to like the Skyrims of the world, where they have like maybe 12 voice actors for every single NPC.
Yeah. Yes. No,
I agree.
Definitely.
And out of curiosity, you being the audio guy, what was the soundtrack like?
The soundtrack for this game, it makes me think that this is exactly how I think a sci-fi RPG would sound like. Right? If you're walking through the Citadel, I'm sure that track is going through all three of our minds right now. Walking through the Citadel.
For me, it's actually the interactive map on the Normandy. You know, when you get the whole map up and you get this like twinkly.
That's the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
that's the one I'm thinking about. Oh.
That one always catches me every single time.
I can't do it. I can't do it justice. But yes, that's the one.
Because you listen to it so often.
If I had to say three things that really stood out to me when it comes to like the audio of Mass Effect, the first one is whenever you approach a mass relay and you jump into that light speed, and you have that that build up of that, that will always stick with me. That sound effects, it used to be my ringtone.
I can picture that. Like there are so many iconic bits, especially strangely enough, it's a weird one for me. There's one part when you're ever in fight and somebody keeps shouting, "The enemy is everywhere." And strangely enough, that's been stuck in my head for so many years. I swear I hear it when I play any game that's like a first-person shooter. I always hear, "The enemy is everywhere." I'm going
to say two things. The first one being, okay, it's not Mass Effect 1 related, it's Mass Effect 3. But that soundtrack, Leaving Earth, that they used in some of the trailers, and then every time you have a nightmare sequence, that blah, blah, that, like with just the piano, is bone-chilling.
Yes, that's right. No, I can hear it in my head now. You're right. That's right.
And then talking about NPCs, another voice line I'm fairly certain all of you guys would have heard if you've played Mass Effect 1 is that voice line, "I will destroy you!"
Yes, that's right. It's the same type of one. Yeah, you're right. I swear to this day, doesn't matter what I'm playing, Counter-Strike, it doesn't matter, any first-person, I hear those sound effects in my head as I come onto the screen. It's part of me.
I'll tell you something super awkward, right? That line sounds cool in your head, right? And Jack even actually says it in Mass Effect 2, but I was on a rugby trip once, under 16 tour, bunch of like testosterone-filled rugby players, and I'm busy taking a hot shower, and one of my teammates decided he was going to prank me and ended up throwing in ice-cold water into the shower. And it was one of the most horrific experiences of my life.
Yeah.
And I ran after him, stark naked, into like the park where everyone was because I was so angry. And all I remember shouting while I'm standing there wearing nothing was, "I will destroy you!" And then straight afterwards going, "Damn, that was..."
Yes.
It's cool in a video game, but it does not work while you're naked running into a rugby field.
Yeah, you're there vulnerable, naked in a rugby field, and that's the first thing that comes to mind. But it just shows how these sound effects are kind of imbued into our subconscious to some degree, because it's all there, be it from classic games like Counter-Strike. I always hear "fire in the hole." I don't know if you played that game. In my mind, that's all I ever hear: "fire in the hole." You know,
over like the intercom, the walkie-talkie.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
You even hear the grenade. Tuk, 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 tuk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you really do. That's right.
Yes.
It's funny how these become part of your gaming subconscious now, because they're all in there just waiting for to be rekindled.
Especially with older games. The older the game is, the more these sound effects just, especially for SNES and NES. This is an entire bonus episode for music or sound effects for older games we can get into. I wanted to get back to the music for Mass Effect. I think that the music not only sounds exactly how a sci-fi RPG would sound like, but what I really appreciate is in this game they use much less of an orchestral soundtrack and more synthesized sounds due to the nature of the game, this being a sci-fi game out in space. No orchestra, but synthesized sounds. That's great. It just makes so much sense, but you don't think about that type of thing.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of those things that you think is just a standard, right? Any sci-fi,
Yes.
it synthesizes any gothic, say Dark Souls, it's deep booming bells or dark creaking atmospheres and stuff like
Yes.
that. But when somebody pulls, the funny thing is, if it was devoid of that sound, it would be ruined. You wouldn't be able to enjoy it. You wouldn't be as immersed as you can be.
It really would have.
With the sound effects in the Citadel, or the isolation aspect of being on some of the planets, or even the lack of sound when you're exploring the planets outside of the Mako, the buggy thing.
Yes.
It builds the atmosphere of music creation, and in this game, it does build it so well.
All right, let's move on to gameplay. The first note I've made for gameplay is this is easily the worst part for me. I did not enjoy the gameplay for this game.
I will 100% agree with you. Like, it is janky. It's like, I think even for a 2007 game, it doesn't feel necessarily great. Especially coming off the heels of Gears of War, which was similar combat because you basically just hide behind a 3/4 high wall and then you peek over to shoot and then you go back underneath. Like, I don't think it ever felt satisfying to me, except maybe with the sniper rifle, because the sniper rifle was a defined, "Bwah," and you knew that guy was dead. Like, he wasn't getting up.
Right,
Yes.
But you're right, I agree. The gunplay, we all like this gritty body dynamics, falling over, shooting people in the head for extra damage. You're right, it was all kind of missing in this. It was serviceable, and that's about as far as the gunplay felt for me.
You're right. So, but it didn't feel like other games that came out in 2007 was BioShock and Crisis.
Yeah, that's true.
And
it's like
the gunplay felt impactful. Here, I mean, if you shot the Geth up until they died, they wouldn't react to your bullets at all.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't like the overheating mechanic. Like Caleb was saying, the sniper rifle was cool, but you sometimes do one shot, and then you'd have to wait like 5 seconds to do another one, which kind of takes it away from trying to be a badass sniper. When you're just like you see them down there, and then you've done one shot, and then everybody huddles behind their little shields and little. Granted, I give you it's somewhat realistic. But like most people when they played Mass Effect 1, they made Shepard the commander, as in the gun specialist. Which later, if you actually, I like playing the bio with all this floaty sphere things. I forgot what it's called. It actually limits your gameplay quite a lot because all you've got is the guns. You're not a tech specialist. You're not a biotics specialist. It is the least fun playthrough type for me to play just the weapons one, because the gunplay isn't that fun.
Yeah, I'll agree. Like, I feel like Mass Effect 3, for me personally, and I know Mass Effect 2 is my favorite, but Mass Effect 3 was my favorite in regards to gameplay because you could be any class, but still use every weapon. In Mass Effect 2, the biotics were a lot more impressive, and I wanted to use them, but I hated being limited to, like, just an SMG or just a pistol.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was annoying. No, I agree, yeah.
It's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate, but it does make sense because this game puts a large emphasis on narrative that it wouldn't put as large of an emphasis on its gameplay. It does make sense, unfortunately, but it also sounds like they figured that out when they got to Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Yeah.
No, I agree. They focus so much on the plot, which is it's good. This is a good plot-driven game. That things like the gameplay, like even the Mako, the driving around on the planets, the even like you said, the little mini games were fun, but they weren't particularly complex. I.e., unlocking the crates and cracking these things, they were quite simple. But like you said, it's more story driven. They definitely dropped the ball, especially in Mass Effect 1. Like you said, like Caleb said, they generatively get better as the two others come on.
And that's good to hear, and I can totally see why a lot of people fell in love with the trilogy, because it just got better. There's the part in Noveria we were talking about earlier, in this settlement that sucked. I think I hated it as well because you needed to solve some sort of conspiracy and talk to a dozen different people.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're so far away from one another.
Yes,
Yeah, they really
yes.
were. That's true. I remember that. They really were.
That part had me pulling my hair out. That's not fun at all.
And Shepard does that like jog run. He doesn't ever actually run. He just does that weird little
Even
jog
when
as
you're
he goes
sprinting,
anywhere.
you're just jogging with a blurry screen.
Yeah, that was frustrating. I remember that.
No, I didn't like that. The gameplay, I scored it low. It's a miss. But I'll have to try Mass Effect 2 and 3 to see if it
Yeah, you
landed.
really do. You really do.
Do we have anything else for gameplay?
I'm good.
I have one thing to add.
Go on.
The Mako actually handles better in the original version than in the Legendary Edition, especially when it comes to steering, because they did the stupid thing that I hated in the Legendary Edition, where wherever you pointed with your turret, your car would turn to face it. And in the original, they didn't do that. So you could be driving straight but shooting right, which made killing the Thresher Moors so easy because you could just drive circles around them. But now, because you go wherever the turret points, you kind of have to drive at them, shoot, then turn at the last second.
Wow, that's a really weird, because the Mako wasn't like physically correct. You know, the physics were all off, but it was still a fun little Jeep to drive around places. The idea that they disabled that, you're like, right, that doesn't sound. I don't get that. That's for the sake of what, the turret didn't move in the 24th century or whenever this is set. That just seems strange. I didn't even know that happened in the Legendary Edition.
Yeah. Oh well. Right. Performance. I played the Legendary Edition. I couldn't get a hold of the 360 edition. This game ran fine. I had no issues. It had some loading. Like a lot of loading. That's it though. No bugs.
I think you were relatively lucky, to be honest. I don't know what Caleb thinks.
Yeah.
I never experienced any game-breaking bugs. I think the loading screens were fine. The only thing I hated was the lifts in the Citadel.
Yeah. I saw it coming.
It's weird. I kind of liked them. I must be in the minority here, but I kind of liked the little conversations of the lift. They took too long, but I did kind of enjoy them. That's me.
Do you think that sometimes the loading stopped? It completed loading, but because the conversations weren't finished,
Yeah, it could be.
the elevator just kept going? Was that the case? Did that happen? Then it's a no from me, dog.
I had one great glitch, which I'll always remember because it was hilarious. On the Citadel, you get the opportunity to go dancing on the dance floor with Flux owner, the little fella. And my game glitched out so much I couldn't deactivate the dance. So I remember going in there and you're hearing that duh, 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 and he's just doing his Shepard's just dancing away. And I remember getting up to go make a coffee and nothing changed. And so for about an hour or so I just left it. And Shepard just danced in the background in my house whilst I was doing things with the little guy for hours on end. It was a weird bug, but it will always be memorable for me to be a very strange, fun moment in there.
That's like a good bad bug.
The Mass Effect was buggy. It was.
Okay.
The PC, I originally played the PC one, so it's not actually the 360. I jumped straight in on the PC when it came out, or later on. But that was a buggy mess.
Does that bring down its value for money? Because I don't think it does. I don't think it does. There's a ton of value in this game. There's a lot of game here.
Yeah, it depends on your views. Like I said, we all get games released now that are buggy messes. It's almost coming to a standard of the gaming sphere. So it's hard to compare because most games are bugged now.
Yes.
A handful of the ones that aren't.
So just in regards to replayability, I'll say any of the Mass Effect games, like, they're all stupidly replayable. Because whether it's a simple decision of, cool, I'm going to use a custom femship, or I'm going to make my own version of femship, or male or female, like, gender's one thing. And then you play Paragon, then you play Renegade, then you just go do a run through where you've done things you've never done before. Then you do a focus on exploration. Like, each game is so incredibly different. Then you focus on different weapons, and you focus on different abilities. You can play this game so many times.
It's incredible, really.
Yeah.
You really can do that. And Caleb, you're a living testament to the amount of times you can play these games and keep it fresh.
100%. I feel like I've said 100% far too many times this episode.
Yeah, we always think that. Out of curiosity, if and when your wife decides to play it, are you sitting right next to her, watching her, and just seeing what decisions she chooses, or are you coming to her afterwards?
We have a rule that I'm not allowed to watch her play games.
Oh, do you
What?
backseat? Are you a backseat gamer?
I'm not a backseat player, but then she'll always be like, no, because when you watch me, like, then I stress too much. What if I die, etc.? Because, like, it's the same. We'll be playing Overwatch together, and she'll be getting, like, 100 kills. And then, like, if I'm just waiting to respawn or something, I'll look at her screen, and then she'll just be like, fine, I'll kill myself then. And then she'll just, like...
Whoa, yeah, you're not allowed to look at all. Well, fair enough. Like I said, I can understand the gaming bubble, and it is a special place for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea that, you know, that's you're not allowed to look at all. You look at your screen, I look at mine. Yeah, exactly. That's cool. So you'd come to her after she's completed the game, and then that's when you're allowed to share views and points, right?
That's what the issue is. I've played the game so many times. I'll be like, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that," and then she'll be like, "Cool, well, now I'm not going to talk to you."
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I can
makes
imagine
sense.
I can imagine being the same.
That makes sense.
So I've got to wait. I've got to wait for her to have played the game multiple times.
Oh wow!
jeez.
That's
Oh,
an
wow.
undertaking. Shame.
Not just the game, but the trilogy. Or are you just talking about Mass Effect 2?
I'm just talking about all of them.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
man.
right.
Oh, wow.
She has to play the trilogy a trilogy of times.
Good. That's a lot of game, and that's a lot of that's very exciting if that's your thing. But yeah, that's Mass Effect 1. I can't believe we tackled this behemoth of a game. This is a milestone in the gaming industry. The first Mass Effect game.
No, I agree entirely.
I'm glad we did it. And Caleb, thank you for joining us. Really, it's been so insightful to hear your opinions from a Mass Effect veteran. How this game has impacted your life, the gaming industry. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are interested in movies, do not forget to check out Critical Cinema. Wait, is that correct? I'm trying to slide in.
Yes. Check out Critical Cinema. I was
On
going to ask you,
Patreon.
Caleb, if you've got any plugs, now's the time.
Oh, fantastic plugs. Okay, you guys can follow me on... I do this almost every day. Why did I just go blank? Okay, let me start again. You guys can follow me on YouTube, Instagram. Those are my two primary platforms. Basically, where I focus on anything geek culture related, but primarily focusing on movies and video games.
And catch him at Comic-Con in Joburg, right? Because
Yes, Comic-Con, Joburg. I'll be presenting, which is awesome.
Good luck with that, Caleb. Really.
Thank you. Thank
speaking
you.
In front of a crowd of people. It's not for the faint of heart, so
No,
well done.
definitely not.
I do appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Let's go. So the scores for Mass Effect 1. This one's got some weight to it, right? The scores we got for Mass Effect, we sent on a big space opera on the Normandy, sent it across the galaxy to go chase the Reapers, kill Matriarch Benezia. I don't know, do something with Saren. I haven't gotten that far yet. It came back to Captain Anderson on the Citadel in the form of a B-, which is a very respectable score. Even for the first one in the trilogy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The first game, it's a solid. And it is still a B-. For me, I am biased, but I'd still say B- is fair because the graphics are a bit meh. The story itself is good, but
that's what it's about, the story.
The companion stories and the actual atmosphere and stuff, that's where it gets me. That's where it gets the pluses in my book.
I see. Okay. That makes sense. Well, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Critical Arcade podcast. If you'd be so kind, you could leave us a review on any platform you listen to this podcast on. It'd help us a lot. You could follow us on our social channels, on Threads or Instagram, or you could catch me on email. I'm nick@criticalarcade.com.
And I'm Dave at criticalarcade.com.
But besides for your email, Dave, where else can we follow you?
Well, by all accounts, I am out and about, but if you do find me and you do see me, I will have to do that very awkward dance sequence that Shepard did in the Flux, just around you. I'll just do a 360, doesn't matter if we're in a pharmacist, we're in a restaurant, if we're just busy on the street. I'll do the cheesy little dance until, you get tired of it. So if that's your thing, by all means, follow me, but if it's not, go on.
Are you going to do it for hours on end?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I will do
Yes.
hours on end. That's my dedication to this craft. Yes,
That's
definitely.
a no. That's a no from me. Rather, follow us on Patreon for Critical Cinema, where we review movies like Aliens, and whatever massive list Caleb is gonna give us because
Yeah, he's
our
bound to
film
add to it. No, exactly.
Yes, he's already added 300.
Yeah,
Not
it sounds
300
like that many.
movies.
Yeah, the movie. Yeah,
Not
it's true.
the movie 300 with Gerard Butler. But yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you would. I'm sure you really could.
Yeah, he'll do it. Dave, how would you tell us? What have we got lined up for next week?
Next week, we've got a game I'm not sure if anyone's heard of. I don't know if you've heard of it, Nick. We're playing a Men in Black Alien Crisis for the Wii.
No, I've not.
Like,
No,
yeah,
no.
Oh, so I'm so glad because I'd be like, whoa, like, you know, we've got his opinion on Mass Effect, but he thinks Men in Black Alien Crisis is a great game. You know,
Well, we've not played it. We've not played it, Dave. We don't
That's
know.
true. That's true. It could be amazing. Caleb could be right. This could be the greatest game in the history of games. I doubt it, but I think, you know, I'll go with an open mind.
Yeah. But yeah, check out next week the Critical Arcade podcast for Men in Black Alien Crisis. Caleb, thank you once again for joining us for this episode, and we'll see the rest of you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.